Hello, heathens. Welcome to episode 3 of Girls Gone Godless, the podcast where we believe the only hell is the one that we're living in today with this current administration. I'm Aaliyah.
I'm Christina.
And I'm Noe.
And today we will be talking about Christian nationalism.
Boo!
Oh,
Boo! That's the whole podcast. Bye.
Yep. What more do you need?
That's all you need.
Thanks for tuning in to Girls Gone Godless, the podcast where we
puke, we're constipated, and we have a UTI. Okay.
So,
this is starting on a lovely note.
Hallelujah, I am saved, I am so glad I am. Glory, 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 glory to God.
Christian nationalism, like all religion, has woven its way with its little tentacles into all of our lives, whether we're Christian or not. So here we go.
Tentacle pornification of the U.S. government.
The intertwining enmeshment of religion and religiosity into daily society.
And why does Matt Gaetz look like that?
And why is gender affirming care okay for all of them, but not for anybody else?
Fuck it.
What is Christian nationalism? I think there is a very specific, particular brand or version of Christian nationalism when we're looking at America, where we live and probably where most of our listeners live. And I think the best way to define it is that it's an assertion that the U.S. is a country that was founded for and founded by Christians. And then it also puts their goals and visions and dreams of what Christianity should look like into the identity and the culture and the laws and legislation of our country. So I think that's a good working definition of where to kind of jump off of for the rest of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Good. So how did this start? How did we get here is always my question. Like, how the fuck did we get to where we're at today? And I think it starts from how America as we know it was founded, right? Was on Puritanism. So those fucking pilgrims had to make their way over here because they didn't like the way that Christianity was going in England. And so they were like, we've got our own version. We're going to go over to another country, not another country, just another place where people are already living, like the indigenous people that were here before. We're just going to, of course, let's call it what it is. We're going to go over and we're going to reclaim this land to be this new version of Christianity. And they sought out to purify and reform the Church of England. So that's kind of how it all started. So when they came over to what is now known as America, that's why it's called New England, is because they were trying to reimagine what the Church of England would actually look like if it was more purified than what it was. Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep. When the pilgrims came over, their big beliefs were that they were saved by grace alone and not by their merits, which I guess is something that differed from the Church of England. And they also wanted to be in a covenant with God for the country, and that they also believed they were chosen by God to save the world, which kind of sounds like most versions of Christianity that we have,
yes,
today. Only the version of God that applies to you and what you believe to be true is the God that's correct, right?
8 pound, 6 ounce, newborn baby Jesus.
Wrapped in a golden fleece manger.
It didn't even utter a word yet.
So one thing that is interesting about the pilgrims and the Puritans that came over was they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. So from the get-go, they were saying that they were coming over here and they were declaring their loyalty to the King of England, but they also wanted to create and enforce their own laws. So it's always been this dichotomy of we're going to say one thing and we're actually going to do another.
What?
So
religious people doing that?
Surprise.
I've always known them to be to their word and not hypocritical.
Go figure. So the country that was founded on a separation of church and state, however, wants to wants to shove Christianity and a specific brand of Christianity down our throats constantly. And that's how it's been from the get-go, from the jump.
My thing is, why would we even want, even if it was all Christian, those people enslaved people. Like, why would we even, like, I don't give a shit what some crusty old white dude that many years ago thinks, because they weren't good people. So
No, they weren't. Well, and what's interesting too is like they said that they didn't want to come to America to establish a theocracy, but they kind of did in a way, right? Like they said that they didn't want the king to be in charge of the church like he was in England. And they said that they believe in some level of separation of church and state, but Christian values are intertwined in our laws, still today. So I don't know.
and it's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
It's
So-
getting worser.
And worser. It got worser and worser. So on a fun note, when I was doing some research and reading, I came across some really ridiculous ass names that these people had during the Puritan times. So I'm specifically talking about like 1620 to 1740. So just listen to some of these ridiculous ass
Okay.
names.
Great.
Goody Glover.
That's a drag queen.
Right. Cotton Mather. Increase Mather. These were siblings, Cotton and Increase. These were these people's names. Okay.
Okay.
Ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
I'm surprised a celebrity hasn't like swooped up on the 1620s trend. We're going to see it like peaking with, what was it?
Increase Mather.
This is Increase Kardashian.
So just of like notable mention during this time period was this is also when the Salem witch trials were happening, right? Like in 1692 and 1693. So America, anti-woman since 1692.
Right. Just
Yep.
burn us for having an opinion. For
And
having
then,
a
if you were
business.
right for just existing, and then double bad if you're Black, right? So the Puritans believed that African Americans and Native Americans were true witches, and Black people were seen as inherently evil creatures, unable to control their connection to satanic wickedness.
Wow.
Oh my God. I'm like wanting to find the intelligent words, and it's very hard for me today. We'll get there.
Do Christian nationalists follow a specific religion or doctrine?
I think they don't focus around a specific doctrine, but more like a historical identity and political influence. It seems like they kind of cherry pick from the Bible specific verses that kind of align with their politics. I mean, it's definitely very evangelical Christian, but I don't think it's, one particular. I think they bond over their hatred for women and people of color, and they don't want immigration, at least from non-European countries. That sort of thing.
And I watched that documentary, God and Country, but they do talk about how it's not Christianity. It's like a minority of people that have a lot of power. Like they have
Right.
the unbalanced power and influence and all that stuff, even though they're just like a tiny, tiny part of it all. So,
And it's like, I guess my thought is always like, how though? Like, how did such a group that is considered a minority, when you actually look at the numbers, how did they gain this much power and this much momentum in the political realm of things?
Money,
They-
money, money.
they were well established, they're well organized, and they are well funded. And that is
Yes.
all it comes down to. It's just
Mhm. A few billionaires.
Part of it though too is like the conservatives, the Republicans, the right, not the right as in correct, but right as in, on the
Wrong.
political
Yeah.
spectrum,
far
right?
Mhm.
They have gotten so many billionaires on their side because Republican politics and fiscal policies are what protect the billionaires, right?
Mhm.
And I think that this goes back to like the times of Reagan even. So like it's not a new thing. This is something that's been going on, for several decades at this point.
Right. Well, in my research, I honestly needed one of those boards with the pins and the string because, you know, I start looking at like the Heritage Foundation, I start looking at Project 2025, and then it's like, oh, this person used to work for this think tank, and this person is now in the administration, and this person is this, and this, you know, it's just like the Jeffrey Epstein shit. That's all, you know, it's like this person was the AG, and this, you know, it's like everybody is so intertwined, decades
Yes.
and decades and decades long.
I'm gonna make a cup of tea really quick.
Okay, that's fine.
I have everything right here. I came prepared.
Let's see.
So cute. You have your little tea stuff right there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sick.
I think I got the black lung pop.
I'm like a little baby. I'm a sick little baby. Okay, so I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Christian right in the 1980s. So specifically talking about the Moral Majority, which was a lobbying group that was founded by Jerry Falwell, who was I guess like a pretty popular like evangelist pastor in the 1980s, and he had one of the largest Baptist churches, and then he also went on to found Liberty University in Virginia. And he was friends with like Ronald Reagan and with a bunch of other like televangelists from that time. So like Jimmy Swaggart and I don't know, all those people. Anyway, so he founded the Moral Majority, which was considered to be the nation's first religious right organization, which played a major role in Reagan getting elected in the 80s. So they would organize registration drives at churches to get churchgoers to vote. And they also funded political ads in favor of Ronald Reagan. And they had their own like Christian television network. And so they would fund ads on this television network. So they would get in the minds of their followers. And I'm saying followers as in like, they're not necessarily followers of Jesus, right? They're followers
Right.
of these televangelists, right? Get inside of their minds, you know, through all of their media channels. They also had radio stations. And so they would have these political ads in favor of Reagan and other Republicans that were, you know, running at the time. And they were in opposition of abortion, porn, gay rights, the Equal Rights Amendment. So basically, they were in opposition of a good time, is
All the fun
Absolutely.
stuff.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Right.
Yes. But what they were in favor of was prayer in public schools, fetal personhood, traditional family values, also known as a bad time.
Yes. What is so funny about how we're stay-at-home moms and we homeschool, and like such a big part of Christian nationalism is homeschooling and drilling it into their kids' head and like creating this little army. And it's like we are homeschooling for the exact opposite reasons. So it kind of
Exactly.
puts us in a interesting position.
Well, like you are the resistance in that case,
Right.
That's your form of your daily act of protest is by raising your children in an open-minded way.
I like to say how in support of public schools I am, because the Christian nationalists in Project 2025 they want to, you know, cut the Department of Education. They want to fund private schools, religious schools, homeschooling with no oversight. And that's exactly how they're building up this little army. They're specifically like crafting curriculum and training them, even kind of like in military style. And their goal is to get as many of their homeschooled Christian nationalist kids into the government. And we're seeing that now. So I think homeschool is great when you need it, but I think there should be regulations, and public school needs to be funded always.
Yes.
Forever.
They need to be paying teachers as much as they're paying ICE agents. But that's a whole other day on the pod.
What do the Christian nationalists want?
They want to roll back feminism way, way back. And they want segregation still. That's why like religious schools, they want them funded because they can choose who goes there, and they, you know, they want the laws to be in their favor for who they can keep out. Like that's a big thing. They're able to keep religious schools segregated.
Yep. And they want a predominantly white America with little to no immigration. They want everyone to obey the rules of their religion, reduce rights for minorities, amend the Constitution to acknowledge that we're a Christian nation, stripping away marriage rights for queer people, civil rights protections rolled back, abortions completely outlawed. No exceptions, yet they also want to heavily regulate contraceptives. So what are we doing here?
That has always just blown my mind because they realize that like some of the babies that are going to be born are going to be gay. Some of the babies that are going to be born are going to be atheists.
Well, yes, but mostly a lot of them are going to be abused, and they don't care about that.
No, they only want control. Like, they don't actually care about life, right?
No.
They claim to be pro-life, but if you cared about life, then you would not be cutting Medicaid. If you cared about life, you wouldn't be throwing little children into detention centers. Or like there was the story of the girl that is a cancer patient and just so also happens to be an immigrant, and they detained her and they deported her, right? So it's like, if you cared about life, then why not fund healthcare for all? If you care about life, why do you not give a shit about women after they've given birth to these babies?
Literally.
Why is childcare so expensive? Why is that not subsidized? Why do billionaires get tax breaks, but people can't afford to feed their babies? Like, if you really cared about life, then you would make policies and make legislative changes that actually support life.
Absolutely. And anytime someone who I've spoken to is pro-life, I tell them like, okay, have you ever volunteered in foster care? I could tell you how to become an advocate. You know what I mean? Do you think anyone's ever taken me up on that?
Absolutely
No.
not.
I'm like, why don't you help take care of the kids who are already here who are being abused? You know what I mean? They're not doing it. They're not the ones. Almost every single person in my training to become a foster care advocate, none of us were religious. And none of us are like shouting it from the rooftops trying to brag. Maybe I kind of am right now. But it's relevant because they don't do anything tangible. And I don't know. It just infuriates me. It's like you pretend to care and you act like you're better than us because you believe in some God, but we don't have to be good because we believe we're going to hell. Like, we actually want to help people.
Yeah, the Christian nationalism, we've said like there's always been people who are Christian and are nationalists. You put them together, it's not that hard to figure out. But there hasn't been somebody that they've worshipped like Trump, right? I mean, I know that people feel like he's ordained by God.
Which is that's a whole conversation, because Jesus, Trump, that nothing in common. Nothing.
For the record, Jesus was a Palestinian, aka brown, refugee, born in Bethlehem, fled to Egypt, and then immigrated back to Judea, who was Jewish, who was a socialist, who hated corruption, fed the poor, healed the sick. He would never take away Medicaid. He would never round up immigrants and put them into camps. He would never side with the billionaires. He would never be okay with kicking the vulnerable populations of our society while they're already down. So how is it that people are saying that Trump and Jesus are anywhere on the same?
Right.
Anywhere.
And I think that's exactly what differentiates people who are just regular Christian or actually follow Jesus' teachings and Christian nationalists, because Christian nationalists are focused on power and control. And then another thing about Trump and Jesus not having anything in common. That's true. However, Trump and the God from the Bible, they're pretty similar because they demand attention, demand worship. They're angry, they're vengeful, dissent is punished, questions are seen as rebellion, they're obsessed with winning and conquering, and they require constant praise. So they're used to worshiping a very cruel and vengeful God. So cruel and vengeful leaders, like, same shit.
I feel like America goes through these patterns of a shift, right? So I'm thinking back to the civil rights movement and how much progress was made, with Martin Luther King and with Malcolm X and with legislation that was put into place in the late 60s and early 70s. And then from that time period, we have some progress in the women's movement. So we got Roe v. Wade. And then the turn from there was the rise of the Christian right in the 80s, right? So there was a turn and a shift and a rise in more conservative views, like I mentioned earlier, the traditional family values. So a return to that 1950s style of, home where the woman is the homemaker, the guy's out winning for, the breadwinner, winning the bread. What is it? The breadwinner.
Yes.
He's out there doing that. She's home with the kids. So there was a shift. And then I feel like once the 90s rolled around, there was a little bit more of a shift where, there was a little bit more progress in terms of social change, where we got some legislation that made, sexual harassment in the workplace illegal. So women were, again, back in the workforce. And then, we had some time where we had Bush as the president, and there was another spike in a conservative movement after 9/11 happened, where there was a bit of a rise in, not a bit of a rise, but quite a rise in Islamophobia.
Yeah, Christian nationalism at an all-time high.
Right. Like you would drive around and you would see American flags. And this is when I, was growing up. When 9/11 happened, I was 11. So my formative years were kind of right after this time. And I grew up in a Pentecostal church. And so there was a lot of messaging around how America needs God in schools again, how America needs to turn back to God. And there was this turn back to these traditional family values. And then we had Barack Obama get elected as president, and there was backlash, obviously, of having, one, a progressive, two, a Black man in power. And so what came up out of that movement was the vilification of, President Obama by the Christian right, saying that he was the Antichrist and saying that he was Muslim and saying that he was not actually from here. And we got the birtherism movement. And then that's how we got Donald Trump.
Right. And he was a huge part.
He was a huge part of all of that. Yeah. So I think it's important to highlight how we got to Trump.
Every time we make some progress, they feel very threatened, obviously, and they have to swing so far back in the other direction. And I think that's what we're seeing now with all of the progress that we've had in the 90s and the early 2000s. They're like, oh shit, we're not the majority. We're losing control. Time to pump out these babies. Time to infiltrate the government. And then you were talking about Jerry Falwell earlier.
Yes.
This has to do with 9/11. So I'm just going to read a quote about what he said, the founder of Liberty University. So he said, "What we saw on Tuesday, as terrible as it is, could be minuscule, in fact, if God continues to lift the curtain and allow the enemies of America to give us probably what we deserve. I really believe that the pagans and abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen." So he believed God let 9/11 happen as a judgment on our nation for allowing demonic ideologies like women's rights, gay rights, and civil rights to thrive. So
that happens with everything. It's like when there's a tsunami or where there's a whatever. I've had people in my family say well, look at that area, look at what they believe in. God didn't like what they were, oh, there's voodoo in Haiti or there's da-da-da and whatever. And they're obviously not following what, God. And so, he has to do what he needs to do. And it's really.
I had someone in my family make a comment like that about Hurricane Katrina, and that has stuck with me for my life. I mean, I was really young when that happened, but even then I was like, what the fuck? Horrible. But again, victim blaming, it's all there.
Well, we know that Christian nationalism and racism go hand in hand, right? They were made for each other.
They are each other.
They
Yes.
are each other. They're one and the same.
They're conjoined inbred twin. So back to what we were talking about, even if we were a Christian nation, Christians fully endorsed and defended race-based chattel slavery for hundreds of years. So even if we were a Christian nation, which we aren't, it would be nothing to brag about or continue to support, given that the horrors inflicted on Black human beings were all in the name of God. So without white Protestant Christianity, slavery, the KKK, Jim Crow, lynchings, and segregation would not have happened. And so I feel like that is the exact type of Christianity that Christian nationalism is built on.
Definitely.
Same people. It's just been passed down.
Oh, so white supremacy has always been there. But with Trump and social media, let's say, because as technology grows, as the world becomes a lot smaller, you see a lot more, right? And so it felt like this wave of Christian nationalism.
And I'm sure for us as white people, we were probably more shocked by it because it isn't in our face every day. And those are problems we don't have to deal with. I would just guess that people of color are like, yeah, no shit. Like, this is how it is. This is how these people are. But for us, we're like actually seeing like, oh my God, we're seeing what these people are experiencing because it's so thrown in your face that everyone can see it now. But I would imagine that, you know, growing up and experiencing racism and discrimination, you're like, yeah, no shit, we've been telling you this the whole time, like that this is here. So I think that's part of why so many like liberal white people are like, what? You know what I mean? Because we didn't see it all.
What comes to mind, like around you mentioning that, Noe, was like during 2020 after George Floyd was killed and there was all of the protests, and I felt like there was a bit of an uptick in white people recognizing their privilege and recognizing the struggles that Black people have gone through here in America. Like, I had more than one white friend like send me a message on social media being like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And it's like, okay, I'm glad that you recognize that, but like, how is that helpful for me right now? Like, what does that do? Like, I'm sorry that this is the first time that you're recognizing that there is a disproportionate, I don't know.
It's the whole thing of like, I'm not doing the emotional labor for you. You need to.
Yes.
If you didn't know thus far with all the even the little tiny bits that we get in school, like if you hadn't researched and looked into that more and realized what was going on, then you need to do your own
research
work.
Should we get into a brief summary of what Project 2025 is for those that don't know? Because it's pretty scary.
So Project 2025 is a comprehensive conservative policy blueprint developed by the Heritage Foundation and supported by an alliance of over 100 conservative organizations. It provides a detailed roadmap for transforming the federal government and implementing conservative policies in a future Republican presidential administration. So that's what it was at the time that it was written. We are now under a Republican presidential administration, so this plan has begun to be implemented. I'm also reading this from the Project 2025 tracker, which is a website that will tell you how much progress has been made since Trump has been elected and has been president. 46% of Project 2025 has been initiated.
It's insane. And also, like, just a few months ago, they were denying its existence. Like, oh, I don't know anything about that.
Yes. So on this website, you can look and see how much progress has been made by each agency and the total number of objectives. And so there's 316 objectives that are listed with 36 different federal agencies involved. And so basically what they're saying on this website is that 115 of them are complete. There are 63 more currently in progress. And it also, again, like I said, breaks it down by governmental agency and will tell you on the website that 100% of the objectives for the USAID agency and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission agency, 100% completed. So like agency by agency, they're just instilling their policies.
And it's so funny to call it progress when it's like the opposite. They're
It's
literally
regress. Yeah.
It's regress. I have a quick little like bullet points of what's in there. So taking away reproductive rights, which is, a national abortion ban, reversing the FDA's approval of abortion pills, restricting doctors' ability to provide medical abortions, restricting STD testing, birth control, IVF, that sort of thing. There's also ending programs that address climate change, defunding and trying to eliminate the Department of Education, mass deportation of immigrants, persecute the LGBTQIA community, encourage racial discrimination, end diversity, equity, and inclusion offices, end the Fair Housing Act, terminate healthcare, cut Social Security, and give unchecked power to the president, which is packing all levels of the federal government with Trump loyalists.
And rejecting the church and state separation and installing Christian values into
Right. Didn't they
government.
make like a task force in the White House to protect, what is it called? It's like an anti-Christian task force
Yeah,
to go after anti-Christian.
He just signed a executive order, which at this point I wipe my ass with his executive orders. I just print them out and because
Does that not hurt if it's just on computer paper?
it really does. It's like a corn husk, but I do what I can for.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Like the LGBTQ plus community, like all that stuff. Like I feel like now they've moved on. I mean, obviously they want us all gone, but it's the trans community has just taken the brunt of
Right.
this
Well,
shit.
It's always based on fear. They've always got to have some boogeyman that's coming to take your things, to hurt your kids, to infiltrate your country. And it's just like they just go through different oppressed peoples.
It's
like,
your
it's immigrants,
pastors
it's trans
and
people.
it's people in the
Literally.
GOP that are out here hurting the children.
Right.
I just want to say, I've never felt uncomfortable or threatened in any kind of way, physical, emotional, or sexual by a trans person.
Never.
But I have felt threatened, uneasy, unsafe around a religious person.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely.
A religious
100%.
person.
And I will just say that trans people, trans women, and trans women of color in particular, they are the highest risk for being abused and being killed. And for us as women, they are on the bottom of our list of concerns. They are way, way, way more likely to be a victim than they ever would be to be a perpetrator. I think it's because these men who are so against it, they imagine, what would I do in a woman's restroom? And that's the problem. It's that they know what they would do in a woman's restroom as a man. And it's like, exactly. We're afraid of men. Trans women are not men. You know what I mean? And if there was an abuser or a rapist or whatever, do you think they'd be like, oh man, I can't go rape because there's a sign that says, do you know what I mean? Like they're going to do it anyways. So just let people go piss. I love trans women. I love everyone trans. They're hot and beautiful and sweet. And
I love all gender restrooms. I love them. I went, where was I? I don't know, 2 places that I've been probably in the last year. I was like, this is fucking rad. Like, who would not want this? But
right. Or in America, the gaps between the stalls and the doors and stuff, like in other countries, they just have that shit to the floor. Like, just give us our own stalls and it's not an issue.
Seriously.
But
yeah.
I digress.
But the gender affirming care that they want to take away and that, is all over Project 2025, great. People need it too. What is going to happen when they do, because they always do these blanket statements of we're taking it away. And then they realize oh shit, we also use
Joe
this.
Rogan can't get his testosterone anymore.
Or your kid starts puberty early. And, that's a very small percentage, but so are trans people. I just do not understand how it's even on their radar because somebody just used it as a talking point and blew it up.
Well, I also feel like it's important to mention that these MAGA people are so against gender affirming care, but I feel like they don't exactly know what gender affirming care is because they're okay with like Christine Noam having all of the lip filler in the world. And if that is something that makes her feel more feminine, that's gender affirming care.
Right. Breast implants.
Hair
That's gender
plugs.
affirming care.
Yes, hair plugs, a fox eye lift and Botox right before the Republican convention.
God, he's so scary looking.
Imagine seeing him in person.
I can't imagine.
Mm-mm. I don't know anybody
No.
who's ever seen him in person, actually. Yeah. So
It's all of these people who have no education about it making these decisions for women, for queer people. It's like, can we get some fucking doctors and scientists? Like, why is it that our
don't
government
listen.
can just decide? Like, this man doesn't even know how a freaking egg is fertilized. You know, I don't remember who it was, but he was saying, some government official, like, you can carry an ectopic pregnancy
You
to
just
term.
move it. You just move
You
it.
just move it. Like,
Yeah.
why are we allowing these mediocre white men with no knowledge of anything to be the deciding factor in our healthcare?
Who do you
It's just
think
insane.
wrote the majority of Project 2025? Mediocre
Mediocre
white men who don't know what the fuck they're
That's
talking
the
about.
problem.
Abolishing Department of Education was also like a big part of that, right? And because again, they want to keep us dumb and easy to manipulate, and not saying that dumb people are religious. I'm just saying, like, it's easier to keep somebody in religion if they are uninformed about the world
Right.
outside of their
And
bubble.
they want their kids to fear the outside world and like view anyone as different, as other, like as the enemy.
Well, it's also like, who is going to keep them in power? Because when you look at who votes Republican, it's men who are not college educated. Like, that's the biggest demographic of people that support
that's
Donald Trump.
What they do when they're doing all their polling, they're like, okay, we need to keep people like this. And so it's like restricting higher education, restricting financial aid, all of that kind of stuff. It's like,
Well, not only higher education either, right? Because how prison systems determine how many cells to build when they're building new prisons is they look at the third grade reading level and
To determine the size of the prison in that area.
yeah, wow, that's crazy. But the thing is, I know that college is not for everyone. If you're not going to if you're not going to college and you're not learning to think for yourself and seeing a whole bunch of different people, and like learning about diversity. And there's a lot of people who say, like, I left and I went to college and everybody's like, oh, why are you so woke now? And it's like, no, like I realized, yes, I realized
Yeah,
that
that's what gets me so much, is that when people talk about like, oh, it's just woke at college, like it turns kids into liberals. And it's just like, think for a minute about what you're saying after being educated by many different professors on many topics. Like, do they not realize how stupid that sounds? Like, well, once you go to school and you learn things, then,
right,
then you're woke.
and you're woke.
What do you guys think Christian nationalists would do if they met Jesus today?
Deport him?
They would deport him. They would call him a queer for having long hair. They would definitely call him woke. You liberal snowflake with your sandals and your long gay hair.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Jesus walking around Berkeley.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of Jesus adjacent people in Berkeley.
Oh, did you hear about that Ryan Walters guy, that Oklahoma public school superintendent or whatever? He's part of Project 2025, but he's the one who now, like, Oklahoma has to have the 10 Commandments, and he wanted to order all the Bibles for the schools, but he only said that only Bibles that had the Constitution in them, that's the only Bibles that they could have in the schools, which of course is Trump's Bible. So he asked for $3 million to buy Trump's Bibles to put in all of the schools. They were
Trump
like,
can't even hold
no.
the Bible right side up.
I'm pretty sure he can't read, at least not.
He's definitely never read the Bible.
No.
So they said no to that, which is great. But so then he went with Lee Greenwood, the country singer, and like teamed up with him. And so now they've got 500 Trump Bibles and they're taking donations so that they can put them all in the schools. Yeah. And he wants like this new American exceptionalism social studies curriculum, which is just,
like, it's not biased
whitewashed
enough
enough.
already. It's
Yeah.
already, like, since homeschooling my kids and doing the actual research, because I haven't been in school for a long time. And so the history that I remember, I'm just like, oh my God, we're brainwashed just like we hear about other countries, you know, being like the evils, China and all of this. And it's like, oh, those poor people over there, they don't get to hear the true history. And it's like, oh my God, it's the same here. It's just, you know, winners rewrite history in their favor.
Right. So he was just in a meeting and I guess he had like porn on his television.
Love that.
Shocked. Wow.
And, like, he could see it like, that his TV was like next to him or whatever. But like, and this one lady was like, was that a nipple? She's like, excuse me, was that a nipple? What is happening right now? And it's like,
Well, the thing is, like, she would know if it was a nipple if she would actually gone through sex ed, which is being eradicated from schools.
yes.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe she wasn't asking him if it was a nipple. She was asking herself, is that what a nipple is? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's like, it's just so funny because it's like, it's always the loudest ones that are like, meh, meh, meh. And then it's just, what do they say? Like
Yeah.
every projection is a confession for
Is
them.
it admission? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And Caroline Levitt,
Love it.
KKK, Caroline. I knew she was part of the Heritage Foundation and she did like a lot of training videos for Project 2025. But her whole thing with the little cross that she wears and like all of that stuff, and she had a baby out of wedlock with a dude that's 32 years older than her, which, you know, whatever, it is what it is, but he's 32 years older than her. The hypocrisy is just, oh, I just don't get it. Like between her, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and like the hand job at the Beetlejuice thing, and Marjorie Taylor Greene having an affair with like a trick sex goo. I'm like,
Good times for me and not thee.
yes, exactly.
The party of traditional values. Meanwhile, Trump has cheated on his wife. He's been divorced. And those are not even close to the worst of the things that he's done.
So I
But
wonder, like
just
these people who are writing Project 2025, like the people that they're trying to mold America into, like they wouldn't even be allowed in because of the things that they've done.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they believe their own shit. They're just doing it because it gets them more money, more power. You know what I mean?
It's about power.
I'm sure there's so many pastors that don't believe what they preach, but you know, they're making money. And so, yeah, I don't think that they believe in it themselves, obviously.
I saw the funniest thing on the documentary. There was this pastor, they showed a
What
clip of him.
documentary?
The God and Country one. This one pastor was like up there, you know, and it's like they're on speed, right? They're like up there doing their whole like sermon. He was like, Democrats, stay away from this church. You're demon, you're baby butchering election thieves. And I was like, I want that on a shirt.
Yeah.
I'm a demon baby butchering election thief. So, but it's like, just imagine telling people to stay away from your church. Like your politics have such a hold on you that you're telling people do not come to my church if you're a Democrat. Like
Right.
that's where you know it's not about the religion. It is about
Right.
the
Like
politics.
we want to go there anyways.
Right.
We don't want to go there. That's like when I tell someone that I'm queer and they're like, oh, I'm not into girls. I'm like, what makes you think that you would ever have a chance? Like it was never going to happen. So
It's not about
same
you.
vibes. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to tell me not to come because I would never grace you with my presence.
Right.
A question that I feel like is important to pose here is, why do we think that it's not enough for Christian nationalists to just practice their beliefs in their communities and in their churches?
Right.
Like, why do they have to? Why is it that we think that they have to force their beliefs into legislation and into law?
Right. Well, I think
It's money.
For the people
power.
at the top, it's money. And I think for the people who genuinely believe in this stuff, like just regular everyday people, it goes back to them thinking that God blessed our country more than any other. And it's like they're not going to get their blessings. They're not going to get their slice of heaven if they're not doing their job, which they think is fighting all of these demons of civil rights and feminism and abortion.
I guess my thought is always like, if you don't want an abortion, don't get one.
If you don't want a gay marriage, then don't have
Then
one.
don't have one. Yeah. Like,
Right.
how does it oppress you if somebody can live their life to the fullest?
It doesn't. Equality feels like oppression to them because they're so used to being the ones in power that just not being above everyone else, they feel like that's oppression when really it's just leveling the playing field. And even now it's not level, but they feel like anything that you give to someone else to raise them up to be even slightly closer, they're like, no, can't have that.
I have always kind of held on to a hope that, or like a feeling that the really hardcore people were old, right? And so like okay, eventually they're gonna die off, and like people in my generation are going to be the ones in charge,
Right.
and
But
we're
they knew
better.
that too. And that's why they're trying to raise an army.
And now I feel like it's worse. And I thought like the next generation of people in office, and it, like obviously with Obama, I was like, finally, like this is the young and hip and progressive and all this stuff. And it was like the really old people, conservatives, were still voting, and that's how we got Trump here. But now the stronghold that he has on a younger generation is mind-boggling to me, because I'm 44, right? Looking up to a 78-year-old, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then there's these girls down here who are barely adults, like having him sign their tits and like jumping up for joy when they see him and saying that he's their hall pass in their marriages. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
I think it's that America is so racist and misogynistic that people will still vote against their best interest to not have a woman in power or to not have a black man in power. So, going back to what I mentioned, after Obama was president, I feel like it made a lot of mediocre white men upset. Like, it pissed them off to see this well-spoken, educated, highly qualified black man be the president for 8 years.
A white idiot again.
Yeah, we need a white dum-dum.
Right.
But like what Noe mentioned was that like what did you say? I had a thought train, and then I derailed it. It was derailed. Okay. And
there's
then
no rails on this crazy train today. Rest in peace,
No.
Ozzy Osbourne. Can you remember what I was saying that made you think of something?
We didn't talk about Noah, you did these amazing notes on like measuring Christian nationalism.
Right.
Do you want to speak on that?
I shall. Let me find it.
I'm finding it.
It
takes you that long to find it?
It do. Okay. So there is a survey out there where respondents were asked whether they completely agree, mostly disagree, or completely disagree. And this is how they measure Christian nationalism. So these are the statements on the survey. The U.S. government should declare America a Christian nation. U.S. laws should be based on Christian values. If the U.S. moves away from our Christian foundations, we will not have a country anymore. Being Christian is a part of being truly American, and God has called all Christians to exercise dominion over all areas of American society. So the scores they're given as adherents, sympathizers, skeptics, and rejectors. So 10% were adherents, 19% were sympathizers, 39% were skeptics, 29% rejectors. So majority of Republicans qualify as adherents or sympathizers. But it's interesting to note, like we talked about, they are a small minority. However, because they are extremely well-funded, militant, and they don't care about the opinion of the majority, they're still extremely dangerous because they hold so much power, unlimited funds from billionaires.
I feel like after reading that, and the research that I did, I kind of felt like family or, just acquaintances. I would have probably thought they were sympathizers, but a lot more of them are actual Christian nationalists than like I realized. So, you know, and I'm not saying like going to mega churches and stuff automatically makes you a Christian nationalist, but
Well, you might not say it, but
But
I will.
I might.
But I might.
I just think because inherently, like, the idea of a megachurch is very American. Like, when I think about megachurches and when I think about, like, prosperity gospel, which I feel like a lot of times those two things go hand in hand, like, that's as American as it gets, right? The belief that the more money you give to this church, the more blessings in terms of, finances and, it's like if you give money to the church, God will bless you back with money.
that was determined to be a lie.
And the lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Right. Something that I think about a lot is why they can cherry pick from the Bible, what makes them ignore some verses and not others. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's a metaphor, it's this. But then some they'll be like, oh, this is literally,
right.
this is concrete. Like, for instance, the shit in Leviticus where, don't have sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman, blah, blah, blah. But why is that taken as concrete fact when all of the other chapters of Leviticus they ignore?
Where the shrimp
It's
shit is.
Cherry picking.
Yeah, it's like, don't plant your field with two different types of seeds. Don't wear clothing that's woven from different types of materials, stuff like that. So it's like, oh, that's clearly a metaphor. But the one about gay people, since I hate gay people, that one is
It's true.
that
doctrine.
one's real.
Yeah.
That one's real.
And we're going to write and we're going to write laws based on that one little verb that's taken out of context, or who the hell knows who put it in there even.
Right. I just want to say, I don't give a fuck what the Bible says. I don't. Even if it said gay people are an abomination and they should never marry, and even if it went into detail, I don't give a fuck, because
Then
what?
If that's the case, then why did God make me this way?
Right.
If it's an abomination, then why was I created this way? So then you're God fucked up?
No, because they'll say it's free
Is that what you're
will
saying?
and you're choosing to be like this. And that's free will. And, God gave us free
I can
will.
assure you, I did not choose to have fanny flutters in a strip club during barbecue lunch.
Because if it was a choice, I would not be bi. I would be like a full-blown lesbian, because I don't want to like men. Women are so beautiful. But like, here I am, loving both and all and
Right.
whatever.
That sounded pretty gay to me, Christina. That sounded pretty gay.
I think it's interesting how they say it's a choice, and I truly believe it's because so many religious people repress their own sexuality because they have those feelings. So for them, it is a choice. They're choosing not to be gay, so they're like, I'm doing it. Why aren't you doing it? Sort of a thing, That's what I believe in my heart,
and I know that to be true.
And this is my testimony. So, just an important distinction: Christian nationalism is not centered around a unified theology or doctrine. It's more so focused on the role the Christian God plays in America and the believer's obligation to keep America Christian in order to keep his blessings on the country. So they are, instructed. That's their job, that if they want their blessings, they need to keep the country Christian.
Yeah, and they believe that America was founded as a Christian nation based on these Judeo-Christian principles because they think that America is more blessed by God than any other country in the world.
Right.
So that
God loves us the most.
That it promotes this idea of like American exceptionalism. And they feel as if liberalism or secularism and feminism and free thinking and sexual liberation threatens these blessings that have been bestowed upon us by God. Not because the country was built on the backs of, African Americans,
right.
Whatever. So, yeah.
So I have a customer who just painted his van like an American flag. And this van is like lifted and it's ridiculous. But on the back, it says, "God bless America and nowhere else." And it just blows my mind because
That could be the episode name. God bless America and nowhere,
and nowhere
else.
else.
this isn't even American, and but
Right.
they don't believe in blessing anywhere else but America. Like, what the actual
Right.
fuck? Yeah.
Well, I feel like they will gladly forfeit their values if it gets them what they want. You know what I mean? They claim they care about traditional marriage, sexuality, law and order, but they support, a man who has bragged about sexually assaulting women, cheating on his wife. He's a felon.
34-time
Yes.
felon.
Pathological liar, dehumanizes people.
In the Epstein files.
So, yes, he is.
Did we touch on why we can't meet in the middle with extremist nationalists?
Can Christians even meet in the middle with them?
I don't think so, because I think about my mom, right? My mom still identifies as Christian. I mean, she identifies as like spiritual. She identifies as Christian. She goes to an AME church. She condemns Christian nationalism, right? Like, she thinks it's all bullshit and it's wrong, and that there should be separation of church and state, and that these people are not living the tenets of Christ. I would almost guarantee that that's what my mom would say. If we called Julia right now and asked her what she thought, I think that's what she would say.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't meet in the middle when it comes to certain things like your ethics and taking away rights from people. And also, they don't give a shit about meeting in the middle with us. Like,
No.
we are never going to experience total equality and freedom if we're just like, hey, do you think it's okay if they don't give a shit about taking away our rights. It's like, we just have to be more outspoken, more powerful, go out into our community and like get people engaged. You're not going to ever convince a Nazi to like, hey, you think you could hate people a little bit less?
Yeah. No, I hear that. And I think it's also like, I have a hard time meeting in the middle with people who vote against me, right? Like, if you are somebody who doesn't believe that I should have equal rights, if you're somebody who doesn't believe that I should be able to go out and get an abortion if I was having an ectopic pregnancy, if you're somebody who believes that trans people shouldn't have the care that they need, if you're somebody who believes that we should be throwing children into cages, if you're somebody who believes all of those things, like, it's not about politics, it's about who you are as a person, and you're not somebody
Yes.
that I want anything to do with.
Right. And you can't find common ground with people who want to literally eradicate other people's existence. Like, they don't believe that your life is worth anything. To get over that hurdle, you would have to convince them that you mattered, and they don't care. And something that really upsets me about liberals in particular is that they try to take the nice way out and they try to meet in the middle, and that's not working. Like Gavin Newsom having Charlie Kirk as his first guest on his podcast, and then Steve Bannon. It's like, why are you giving these people a platform when they don't think that we should even exist? They want us out of politics. They want us out of public life. They want our rights rolled back. It's just like, Gavin Newsom, obviously on both sides of the aisle, they're in it for money and don't always care about the little people. I just find it really disappointing that he would platform that. And he went on his podcast and was like, oh yeah, my son is the biggest Charlie Kirk stan. You're not embarrassed to admit that your own son is a fanboy of Charlie Kirk? And he was basically like, oh yeah, well, you do have some good points, and I hear you on the transgender stuff. And it's just like, why are we giving these people more of a platform? I just think it's really cowardly. And I can see
he used to be a Republican.
Right, and that's what this whole thing is about, is appealing to those people who are sympathizers, who could go either way. Like, both sides are bad.
Fucking
Those
J.D. Vance.
sort of people.
He was a never Trumper.
He fucked a couch.
Right. Well, that too.
He said, I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never
Yeah.
Trump
I never
guy.
liked him. Oh, really? Well, here we are.
But you're sucking his dick now.
So it's all about power. It's all about money. And unfortunately, like, we're going to have to vote. The people that they keep putting in front of us, we have to choose one, right? Because then if we don't vote, so it's like, fuck. It's just like, I don't know.
It's hard.
It's really hard.
And
But Don't you
something
feel?
that upsets me.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say that the Trump campaign and the Trump administration is one of the best things to happen to the Democratic Party, like fundraising wise. They want to be able to dangle our rights in front of us and be like, look, if you don't vote for me, if you don't donate to my campaign, like all of these things are going to be taken away from you. And then what do they do when they get into office? They don't really do anything,
They don't do anything.
because they know that if they actually fight those things, then what are they going to campaign on? Like they want to be able to use it to their benefit, to be like, oh, look how they're trying to take away your rights. And it's like, well, when you were in power, you didn't do anything about it.
Or you gave like a crumb. But I always feel like I get frustrated with Trump because nothing ever happens to him, right? And that's just like par for the course with like powerful and especially powerful white men. Like they never get the punishments, they never get what's coming to them. And I feel like Christian nationalism is having that time right now where it's like they can't lose. Like laws are just coming left and right and executive orders and this and that.
The IRS is allowing churches to like get politically involved and not lose their tax exempt status.
Yes. Big win for Christian nationalism. Big win
for losers everywhere.
Right. You know, and it's like every
Big
day
win for fucking morons.
day I see
big
like a
dum-dums.
new headline that has to do with, you know, they're probably going to win public funding for religious schools, which is obviously going to take away from public funding for non-religious school. You know, it's like,
Right. Well, and this all goes back to the meeting in the middle thing. They're trying to be polite, and it's also like how people will police how people protest. And it's like, if you look back on history, anything that's ever been accomplished has not been done just by peaceful protest, because people in power are not just going to give you the stuff that you want. They want to hoard it all. So it's just like, you can't meet in the middle. You can't be polite because that doesn't get anything done. So that's why I'm very fed up with a lot of liberal people. I'm just like, just grow some ovaries
And punch
and
a
fucking
Nazi.
grow some ovaries, punch a Nazi. Like, just, I don't know. I'm just so done with the being polite game and, oh, like, hear them out. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
I'm tired of hearing them.
I'm tired of hearing them. If we want real change, like, we need to fucking do something.
Yeah, so what can we do?
What can we do? That is a good question.
Protest?
We can protest. We can support organizations like the ACLU who are fighting back in court against a lot of these policies they're trying to put in place.
You can call your senators and representatives. And I know that's part of the being polite, but you can also be a nuisance and you can call them every single day.
Absolutely.
Here's what I want you to do. If you're listening to this podcast, leave this number in your phone, 202-224-3121. And that is the phone number to the switchboard at the Capitol that will connect you to the representative in your area. You can also download an app called 5 Calls. And this podcast is not sponsored by 5 Calls, but if you want to sponsor us, we will take it. They will give you a script of exactly what to say, and they'll even give you the direct number to your senators or your representative. And so here's an example of what you can say when you make this phone call. And I know that it's really hard to make phone calls, and I hate making phone calls and talking to people, but if this is going to be an easy way for you to protest, then like just do it. You can say, "Hi, I'm Aaliyah. I'm a constituent from Bay Area town. I'm calling to demand that my representative condemn the leadership of the Department of Justice for their gross mishandling of criminal investigations, their shielding of Trump and his allies from legitimate prosecution, and for politicizing this government agency. I ask that my representative, insert name here, call for the resignation of Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, and call for the release of the Epstein files. Thank you." And then you hang up, and then that's it.
Yes.
And then you do it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Be a nuisance.
Absolutely. Don't be a nuisance. Be a nuisance.
Put that on a t-shirt.
And vote. Even though it's frustrating and it feels like you're not doing anything.
And also not just in like the national elections, like in the local elections, it's really important because a lot of these Republican people are getting started on like the school boards,
Right.
and they're
And they
starting
don't even have
on
a
the.
kid in that school. Like, that is what's so nuts.
So we gotta start from the grassroots.
Yes, definitely.
All right, Aaliyah,
Okay. Yes.
who was your Satan and Savior of the week?
Okay. So this is a very niche Satan of the week. Okay. So I typically wear my hair in box braids. And so when you have your hair in braids, you go to the store and you buy the braiding hair. And so for whatever reason, the braiding hair that I bought this last time that I had my hair braided, it deposited this like inky, blackish, bluish color into my own hair. And so when I took my braids out, I was washing when I had washed my hair while it was in the braids, some of this like inky color like was running down my sink, and or not my sink, but in my shower. And I was like, gross, whatever. But then when I had taken all of the braiding hair out, so I was just washing my own hair, there was still this like inky black dye in my own hair. And it took me like 3 or 4 washes with a clarifying shampoo to get all of this like color out of my own hair, which I have never had that happen before. But like the clarifying shampoo works really well, but it also like burns my eyes. And so I'm there in the shower with like burning eyes, and there's like inky black bluish hair dye like in my shower pan. And so I blame the braiding hair. So the braiding hair that I got was my Satan of the week.
You want to give that brand a shout out? Just kidding.
Absolutely not. Do not. You know who you are. Do not sponsor this podcast. I don't want anything to do with you. You piss me off.
Oh, shit.
And then my savior of the week. So I mentioned that I was dealing with a broken glass situation
Right.
in my kitchen, and I ordered a Shark Wet Jet Super Pro Wet Dry Mop whatever from the TikTok shop. Okay. And that has been my savior this week because no more broken glass. And
Hell yeah.
I've got clean floors, even though I have a 13-month-old who throws Cheerios and peas all over the floor. But I just zoom.
No more glass.
No more glass, no more peas, no more Cheerios on the floor because of
To
this.
sacrifice any bread.
No
Hell
bread.
yeah.
No bread was harmed in the cleaning of my floors this week. So
Well,
Shark.
if Shark wants to, I was just going to say that. If Shark wants to, if they feel strongly about speaking out against Christian nationalism, sponsor us.
And if they feel strongly about me having very clean floors in my house right now, then hit me up. Let me know. All right. Do you have a Satan and Savior of the week? Christina.
So my Satan has changed a couple times because at first I thought it was my medical issue that I had been dealing with this week, right? And the medical team of doctors that were just giving me the runaround. But now it is the fender bender that my husband got into on his way to pick up my children from Noe's house. Now my van.
You didn't tell me that.
Now my van is dented. I guess my husband would be my.
Whose fault was it?
It was the other guy's fault. He pulled out.
Did he?
He pulled out in front of Rich and thought that Rich was going to stop, but Rich did not stop. So anyway, he ended up hitting him and taking off like the guy's whole front bumper. So Satan is the whole accident, I guess, and the dent in my van.
I'm sorry, your van is dented and it's even less cool now.
Oh, I know. I love my minivan though.
It's very useful.
It is. It's
Such a
fashion over fashion for sure.
Right.
And
what
then
about your savior?
My
of
savior
the week?
is antibiotics. Remember to pee after sex, kids. No. Remember to pee after sex, not
adults.
Kids. Adults,
not kids.
Remember to pee after sex. Everyone that is having it.
If you're having sex, pee after sex, but also like before sex, like clean your parts.
Yes.
That's important
Wash
too.
your
Yes.
hands.
And your dick.
Wash your hands, wash your dick.
So that's, yeah. Yay, antibiotics.
Noe, what's your Satan of the week?
So my Satan of the week would probably be my PMDD, which for those that don't know, that stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. A lot of people assume it's like PMS, but it's totally different. It's like extremely intense, extreme depression, anxiety, irritability. And in my case, along with my autism, it really makes me shut down and unable to function in certain parts of my life for the whole week before my period. So even recording today, I find it really hard to gather my thoughts and be my coherent, usual self. So that's definitely my Satan this week. But my savior of the week would probably be all of our friends and supporters who have been encouraging us and engaging with our show. It's hard to put yourself out there for just anyone to see or hear in such a public way. So I just really appreciate all of the love and the people who keep encouraging us and validating, we're doing a good job. So I love all the little heathens out there, and y'all are my savior of the week. So thank you. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, this chaotic episode, but maybe by the time I edit this, it won't be. So I hope you enjoyed this very well thought out and structured episode where we stayed on topic
The entire time.
The entire time. We didn't start with burps and UTIs. All right. Shall we wrap this up?
What do we say? Why do I want to say punch a Nazi? Because you have it on your paper.
Remember to pee after sex, punch a Nazi, and call your representatives, because it does matter.
Yeah. And the moral of the story is do not be a Christian nationalist. The end.
Thank you for listening to Girls Gone Godless, where you don't need a secret handshake to get into heaven. If you like this episode, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this episode. It helps heathens like you find bitches like us. If you would like to be a guest on Girls Gone Godless, click the link in the show notes to submit your story. And don't worry, if you want to be anonymous, we have an option for you. See you next week.